Let's talk about faith and religion. In one of my previous courses, specifically in the ketogenic diet course, the Keto Nutrition Health Coaching Certification, after I finished writing most of the course, I had to go back, do some research, and add a new lecture, which I wasn't initially even thinking of including in that course. This lecture needed to contain vegan ketogenic diet recipes. If you have ever heard of the ketogenic lifestyle, you may know that it's based on eating high content of healthy fats, like avocados and healthy meats, medium levels of protein-rich foods, and low levels of carbohydrates. And most of them you get from animal products, meats, eggs, and other animal products or byproducts. However, I did extra research on how I can bring to my students and future coaches alternative recipes that are 100% vegan, still respecting the ketogenic lifestyle, because some of my students have asked me how can they maintain being in ketosis during the Christian Orthodox fasting periods. And I didn't want these people to give up their ketogenic choices by forcing them to choose in between keto and their faith. However, if not for them and not for their beliefs, I would have not thought to add vegan keto recipes to my course. And that made me wonder, what other things do we do in sales and in marketing to comply with religious and faith beliefs? And is religion an important factor that marketers and good salespeople around the world take in consideration when creating their campaigns? To answer these questions, I tried to identify the common denominators in most popular religions to be able to write this lecture about how our faith and our religions can influence our behavior, specifically our buying behavior. Because let's be honest, there are world events connected to beliefs, to faith, to religion, in which people come together sharing a similar mission. And the united power of these groups is so big, to the point where many scientists these days compare the old religious pilgrimages with modern events like a sporting event or a musical extravaganza or a spiritual gathering, either virtual or in person. What I discovered is that most religions have a history-telling part of them. Either in the Old Testament or the New Testament, in the Christian world, or in the Torah, or in the Quran, it seems that every religion is built upon a package of stories and history. And they contain hundreds, if not thousands of them, of these stories. Sometimes scary, sometimes miraculous. It also turns out that the rituals that most religions ask for their believers to perform, like praying, like kneeling in a church, like meditating, like fasting, or receiving the sacraments, or singing specific songs, all these are rooted in these stories upon which the specific faith was built. I also noticed that most religions have a clear vision and a clear mission, whether it's to reach a certain spiritual goal or a certain destination. And also, most religions are striving to exert power over their enemies or over the non-believers. As we all know, religious conflicts have been in the world for a long time, and we can all observe right away that many people are united just by simply taking sides against something else that they don't agree with, and by having an identified so-called enemy or non-believer. This unified front and the confidence that it provides gives the believers in one faith the chance to express themselves and to practice this faith by bringing them together with other fellow believers, often trying to convince others, the non-believers, to join them. Another common ground in many religions, not all of them, but most, is to celebrate a sense of richness and provide to the common folk a feeling and a belief that something bigger than ourselves exists, that we are small in comparison to that. And like I said, this may not pertain to those religions which put an emphasis on modesty and austerity. However, it does apply often to most religious beliefs. And if you don't believe me, simply go to Europe or South Africa or any other religious rich place in the world, and you can see amazingly beautiful buildings, decorated with vaulted ceilings, painted with beautiful murals, sometimes plated with real gold and filled with precious stones. And these are churches, cathedrals, monasteries, temples. Often, when we enter these buildings, most of us are overwhelmed, and without even thinking twice, we suddenly feel that we are mere mortals and that there is something greater than ourselves out there. Studies have shown that authorities and religions, preserving the sense of grandeur, do so out of the desire to articulate the believer's sense of God as being all-powerful, so much so that even to this day in modern Italy, in Rome, for example, no building is permitted to be raised higher than the St. Peter's Cathedral. And if we look around the world, let's take Bangkok, for example, and see the splendor of the Temple of the Golden Buddha, which is made from solid gold and it weighs over 2.5 tons, being valued at nearly $200 million. And the symbolism that temple represents to the world, it's very valuable. Also, religions have in common the concept of evangelism, which I understand as the desire and the power to reach out and to secure new followers by making people feel proud and honored to be members of that faith. Different symbols, too, are found in most religions. There is the cross, there is a dove symbolizing peace, there is an angel, there is a crown of thorns, there is a book, there is a cup, there is the moon, and so many more. And if all I said so far wasn't enough, religions also have a sense of mystery around them, a sense of the unknown, which can be just as powerful as what we know, if not even stronger, because it creates curiosity in present and future followers, and therefore it solidifies the faith and the growth of that specific belief. So let's stop here for a second and change gears to see what sports fans do in certain sporting events when their favorite team is playing. Do they have certain rituals? Do they wear certain symbols, certain colors? Do they chant certain anthems to support their team? And if you are ever in a foreign country or in a foreign city and you happen to meet a stranger who is wearing the colors, the jersey and the symbols of your favorite team, are you not inclined to go say hi and cheer in unison for your team? Can you recognize the deep sense of belonging and perhaps even its profound influence on our behavior? Have you ever heard anyone saying that they participated in an event that brought people together, like a big soccer game or a big concert? And just like a religious pilgrimage, they described that experience as more than just a few hours of entertainment. Even going as far sometimes as calling it similar to a spiritual awakening experience. So now let me bring all this home and close the circle by saying that I'm not the only one who has noticed close similarities between world religions and businesses, and in the fact that they all have the same common elements they use to attract followers and to attract clients that I've talked about so far. So they use the same methods. Just like a successful religion, a successful business, a successful company has a clear vision and a clear mission portraying a clear goal. And if you don't believe me, let's take an example. Let's look at Steve Jobs' vision for Apple, which he made public back in the mid-80s by saying, "Man is the creator of change in this world, and as such, he should be above systems and structures and not subordinate them." Even tens of years later, with millions of iPods, iPhones, iPads, and other Apple products sold, the company still pursues the same vision regardless of the fact that Steve Jobs is not among us anymore. Look at Coke versus Pepsi. Look at Visa versus MasterCard, iPhone versus Samsung or any Android, and many other direct brand competitors. This is us versus them, and this is a strategy to attract new fans, and also, more importantly, to keep the existing fans loyal. It incites controversy and discussions. It gets us thinking and, of course, arguing. But most importantly, it gets us buying into one brand belief or another, or simply buying products that they sell. Do you see any similarities with how the world's religious leaders and churches keep their faithful followers and attempt to get more? Products and brands evoke certain feelings and associations in our minds based on how they look, how they feel, how they smell, and how it makes us feel as well. It isn't like how we feel or how it smells how it smells in a church or in a mosque or any other faith establishment. It isn't different than that. How about storytelling? Can you identify how the most well-known successful world brands have always stories behind them, connecting them to that something that makes us get emotionally involved? Think of Disney and all the beautiful, colorful characters and how emotionally connected we are to them. And talking about grandeur and the sense of overwhelming, we get sometimes when we look at certain brands and their products, which can be so beautiful and so well marketed that we feel that they might really be from out of this world. Have you ever visited the Louis Vuitton flagship store in Paris or Apple's flagship store in New York? Have you ever visited the Duomo Cathedral in Milano or any other impressive cathedrals in Europe? They are all the stores and the religious artifacts. They are designed and created to stir up in us certain emotions and notions of extraordinary value and quality. It makes us respect and admire God or Allah or the brands those that the stores represent. It's attractive to people. What about the notion of evangelism and creating new followers? Remember when Google introduces Gmail services for the first time, and it attracted us in a very unique way by making the service very selective at first. You could join by invitation only, and therefore making almost everybody wanting to be part of that. This helped Gmail a lot in the process of becoming the most popular virtual service, almost like a virtual religion, if you will. When a friend invited you to join its ranks, you felt as though you've been welcomed to a semi-exclusive lifelong community. The same happened with the American Express cards, which was by invitation only, and tens of thousands of consumers called up asking to be placed on the short list, the waiting list for their exclusive black card. The same when a new iPhone model is announced to be released soon. Everybody who is somebody and who loves the iPhone starts pulling strings to get their hands on the new gadgets first. How about Tesla and their months-long waiting list for their new vehicles? This feeling of getting something special and being part of some semi-secret group creates a sense of mystery, and it creates in most people a deep desire to be part of that, even though most of the time people don't even know what that really is. Let's be honest. We wanted to have a Gmail before we even knew what the Gmail had to offer comparing to Yahoo or AOL and all the other existing email services that we had available at the time. And going back to symbols, consider this. Happily wearing a t-shirt with the logo of your favorite sports team in order to express your support for them, or wearing any clothing with your favorite brands' logos like Nike, Adidas, Tommy Hilfiger, or whatever, advertising for them, it's emotionally very similar, if not identical, with wearing a cross pendant or a cross-shaped earring or any other religious related designs in order to symbolize the faith, right? So they are very similar. So you understand how symbols and the other factors I have mentioned can have an extremely powerful impact on why we buy what we buy. It's the same like knowing that for some, the fact that Coca-Cola it still has his recipe held secret, locked into a safe deposit box in an Atlanta bank, plays a role in why they prefer Coke versus Pepsi. It may not be even the actual taste of the drink. It may very well be the mystery that surrounds it and the brand loyalty that comes with that. The conclusion of this lecture is that rituals, superstitions, religions, and faith, whether we are aware of them or not, they are all contributing to what we think about the world around us. Moving forward, while we think about certain products that we see on the market, creates certain emotions in us, and therefore it influences our decision of buying or not buying those products. And the influence can be truly significant, almost like the influence of the church or of the religious leaders have on all their faithful followers. I read somewhere about a mid-90s Apple Inc. Macromedia conference, the one where Apple announced that they are going to discontinue the Newton brand of handheld computers. Now, I don't know if you remember the Newton brand, but it was a big handheld computer. The story goes that on the stage, in front of 10,000 cheering Apple fans, Steve Jobs, the founder and CEO of Apple back then, made the announcement of the discontinuation of the Newton computers. And while he was saying the words in the same time, he took the Newton computer in his hand and then he threw it into the garbage can just a few feet away. The symbolism of his gesture, together with the words he said, were so strong that in that moment, it was clear to everybody present in that building that the Newton line was done. So it was just impressive. It was done so much so that almost in the same time, many of those in the audience who had their Newton computers with them, they grabbed their computers and threw them on the floor and began stomping on them like they were nothing anymore. Think about the power of that manifestation. What kind of CEO of what kind of company has the influence over 10,000 people in one moment? Isn't that a similar behavior as a religious follower behavior? We can see clearly that just like in religion and just like with devoted sports fan, loyal brand followers have a strong sense of belonging to a group or a team which have a clear mission, and they also have a clear, strong sense of us versus them. To take this further, brain scan studies have been done in the early 2000s to show that there is no significant difference between the way people's brains react to powerful brands and the way their brains react to religious icons and figures. This included scanning people's brains in situations of exposure to favorite products like luxury products, Lamborghini, Ferrari, even the Apple computers or phones, and others that most people associated with good quality and comfort. And it also included brain scans of the same people exposed to their faith and religion, and listening to sounds and religious music, or participating in a service of their faith. And the results of this were that the brain spots that got brighter were absolutely the same, identical in both situations. The studies concluded that our emotional engagement with the significant brands that have a big role in our lives that we love, it's very similar, almost identical with our feelings about our faith and about our religion. And this is why marketers and advertisers have begun to use even more and more practices and ways from the world religions to pursue their buyers, to the point where even to this day people buy actual holy land, as in dirt coming in bags from Jerusalem. And they buy holy water, which they believe that it's going to heal them if they ever fall ill. And not only that companies actually sell these products for a profit, but they're also infusing rituals and religion into the sale of their products and into the product themselves. And even though studies have been able to prove that the marketing companies are using the same strategies as religious leaders are in order to create followers and new buyers, many analysts agree that at least in the United States, these practices will never be admitted out loud. Because using something as sacred as religion in order to create more followers for your own profit, it can be perceived as immoral or unethical, at least in this country. But keep in mind that just because it's not recognized, it doesn't mean it's not actually happening. My homework to you, if I am to give you one, would be to go ahead and pay attention in your country or in your region, in your city where you live, and try to identify different similarities in between religious rituals and strategies of attracting more religious followers and different commercial companies' strategies of marketing and promoting their products and services. See what you come up with based on all the examples that I've given you in this lecture and analyze just for fun or for the sake of your business and for your own research, to what extent do these practices overlap? It's very important to also realize that all these religious habits and all these artifacts can play an important role if we learn from them. So all these habits, I am telling them now to you to help you understand why we buy what we buy, us, all of us as consumers. However, I also want you to take all this theory that I'm sharing, all these strategies. They're all strategies of selling. Even though they're in the section that it's based on why we buy, I would like for you, ideally, to take all this information, turn it around, extract from it things that you can use as ethical and moral as you feel comfortable with, of course, and see how you can use create your own marketing strategies for your own business in order to be successful.